Hello and welcome. You are watching News 9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar and I'm being joined by our Executive Editor Karthikeya Sharma. Karthikeya, thank you so much for being with us. We are at this hour discussing the latest or the turmoil, the crisis that is unfolding in the state of Manipur in India. The Manipur state government has now clamped down with a curfew under section 144 of the CRPC across 8 districts with immediate effect after violence broke out on Wednesday during a tribal solidarity march called by the All Tribal Student Union of Manipur. The protest was against the demand of the Meiteis community of Manipur for the scheduled tribe status, the ST status. The curfew has been imposed in Imphal West, Kakching, Thoubal, Jiribam, Bishnupur, Churchandpur, Kangkokpi and Tengopal districts, but broadband services have become operational as of now. The local MLAs had earlier openly endorsed the demand by some Meitei community organizations for the ST status for what is the majority community of the state of Manipur, over 53%. Now, this had led to opposition from other communities who figure in the ST list already. Now, meanwhile, the Indian Army and the Assam Rifles in particular conducted a flag march in areas of Manipur where violent clashes occurred during a tribal group mass rally. Let's first listen into what the Chief Minister had to say, and then we'll continue discussing and analyzing this.
Brother and a sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms and arson have been reported in Imphal, Churchandpur, Bishnupur, Kangkokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and property of our peoples.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ. एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके. और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ.
Right, let's now take this across to Kalyan Deb, journalist from East Mojo, who joins us on the phone line with the latest on the ground situation. Kalyan Deb, talk to us. These visuals are extremely worrying. What is the situation at the moment on the ground?
Well, Mr. Kumar, the situation is still tense. Although there has been no report of violence from today, but there were arsoning and there were situations of violence, reports of violence coming in till 3 a.m. in fact, till today morning. However, after sunrise there has been no reports of any violence, and now people of other communities from Churachandpur, where I am right now, are being moved out. They are being escorted by army vehicles and security officials. A lot of students and family members have already been evacuated, and the evacuation process in fact started last night itself, and it's still underway. They are being evacuated through army personnel. However, the concern raised by the people of the Kuki community, which is one of the major communities here in Churachandpur, is that their relatives have not arrived here yet. However, we have received inputs from Imphal that the army has been mobilized and the evacuation process is underway. So, since the internet, because of the internet suspension, the people here have not been able to get updates from other districts. So, I think probably through this they will get to know that evacuation process is currently underway in fact, in Churachandpur as well as in Imphal right now. However, the situation is still tense. It is, as far as I've spoken to the locals here, it may escalate if the situation is not brought under control as earlier.
Right, situation could escalate further. Kalyan Deb of East Mojo getting us the latest on that front. We have Kartikeya Sharma, our executive editor, with us in the studio. We're also being joined by Subir Bhaumik, senior journalist and author as well. Kartikeya, talk to us. These are extremely worrisome pictures, and time is of essence, because this is the kind of situation that you can't allow to go on for too long. It's good to hear from Kalyan Deb that there has been no violence as of today. But the Meiteis are 53% of the population, and the Kukis are about 40%.
I think the more worrisome issue is that little events and incidents are taking place in Manipur, and they continue to happen in last 30 days. For example, if I recall, last week there was an incident where Chief Minister had to go. It was locally organized. The venue was burned. Why? Because there was a drive by the Manipur government against those who were growing poppies inside protected and forest areas. So most of them said, well, this is against the tribals. But the drive was against the narcotics, because Manipur adjoins that the Golden Triangle of Thailand. So the situation became complicated. Zo people started protesting. They said, well, Zo Territorial Council has to be made instead of Bodo Territorial Council. But Mr. Bhaumik, who joins us, made a very good point, Krishna. He said the problem is the Northeast has not been given a land use policy. People should have a land use policy. And he said he himself is an agriculturalist, but then if you just take them out from that area, what will they grow? But then the government also has a point. You can't grow poppy, you can't create a patch for heroin cultivation. So situation is complex. But what I really want to know is from is as to why this has escalated.
Right.
Why this has spread.
Friend, let's take that question across to Subir Bhaumik as well. Subir Bhaumik, talk to us. The Meiteis and the Kukis are the biggest communities. Meiteis form more than 50% of the population, 53%, and this is a communal clash essentially between the two of the biggest communities in Manipur.
No, this situation is extremely volatile, and we are actually bracing for a situation where things can get really out of control. Deploying the army is fine, bringing in the Assam Rifles is fine, but the tensions are simmering for a while. Now, as Kartikeya rightly said, there was a problem with the forest area in Churachandpur. Point here is that you get a lot of drugs from Myanmar, so you're talking about poppy cultivation, no land use policy, and you then tell the tribals, stop everything, get out, you're encroachers. The tribals treat the forest as their own home, and they think, they have a right to do what they want there. So, cultivation, they're not, so long as they don't cut down trees and destroy the forest. Here you have a double whammy now. The situation I'm trying to explain, apart from the forest issue which was simmering and which led to violence, now you have this whole issue of Meiteis, sort of people pitching for ST status for the Meiteis, which is being opposed not only by the Kukis, let me make this point, but also by the Nagas. So there are three major communities in Manipur. The Meiteis are the preponderant one. They live in the valleys. They're Hindus primarily. And then you have the Christian Kukis and the Nagas. And, these tensions are there for a long time. The Nagas have demanded integration of the Naga areas of Manipur with what they call Greater Nagaland, centered around the state of Nagaland. So the Meiteis don't like it. The Kukis also don't like it. The Kukis demand a separate homeland, but so long, in the moment their idea of the homeland impinges on areas which are dominant.
Dada, if I interrupt you for a minute, I'm sorry. Can you just take our viewers as to why this violence spread?
Yes.
And why such violence took place in Imphal? What has happened in last 24 hours? Because, you know, people see these visuals, but they're not getting a sense of why. What prompted it?
Yeah. What was the trigger?
A very simple thing here is that you suddenly line up three issues which are all explosive in nature. You know, if you are governing properly and you know the sensitivities of the issues, you don't sort of put everything, you know, you don't put 5 types of chilies on the table, you know, when one is good enough to knock you out. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now here I have the forest issue which has upset the Kukis, and they, you know, they think they have been branded as poppy, farmers, drugs peddlers and all that, whereas they think the real drug smuggling takes place from Myanmar with very great support from people in high places. No, that's an allegation. But the point here is the Kukis have this forest issue. The Meiteis want ST status, which the Nagas and the Kukis are opposing because they think that will take away the special privileges that they have had, which will mean that, but the Meiteis have very good reasons to ask for it. They think they have been deprived of development. If they get ST status, then the Kukis and the Nagas are already ST, scheduled tribe. So in that case, Manipur will become a tribal state and their allocations, central allocations, will be at par with Mizoram or Nagaland.
Right.
So everybody has a very strong reason. The Meiteis have a very strong reason to push for what they are pushing. The Kukis have a strong reason to push for what they are pushing. And the Nagas, of course, they have been talking of a greater Naga limb, which everybody else is opposing. So this is a very volcanic mix. And unless this is delicately handled both by the center and by the state government, you are looking at a major crisis.
How well is the state government handling it, if I may ask that question, Subir Bhaumik? You know, how well is the situation on ground? These are latest visuals, ladies and gentlemen, on your screens. Latest visuals coming in from ANI. In fact, the streets are completely deserted. You're seeing army vehicles, doing the rounds on the streets of Imphal. Talk to us, Subir Bhaumik, in terms of the situation on the ground. How well is the state government handling it, considering the state government itself was in a political crisis not very long ago?
No, the political crisis is still continuing. You see, one is playing into the other. These crises.
Right, Subir Bhaumik, I think you might have muted yourself. If you can unmute yourself. Subir, if you can hear us. Right, Subir Bhaumik, we'll just try to reconnect with him. Kartikeya, Subir Bhaumik, really telling us exactly what is going on. Between the Meiteis and the Kukis and the Nagas, there have been simmering tensions. And it is a delicate balancing act that both the state government and the central government has to do.
It was a telling comment in part of Mr. Bhaumik when he used these 3 words. Our constitutional framers felt in the late 40s and early 50s that identity politics is incompatible with the constitutional morality because they understood, our founding fathers, they understood one thing, that when we talk about liberty, important words like fraternity are not discussed. And secondly, the point I'm trying to make here is that if you think that identity is a resolution of economic and social issues, then you can go down to a village and the issue will not get resolved, because Northeast is a potpourri of more than 250 identities. How much will you localize? How many territorial councils will you make? How many autonomous councils will you make? There has to be, if you say there is unity in diversity, I think the diversity also needs to uphold the principle of unity. And the unity is that within the constitutional framework it will happen. So I think the larger problem is, Mr. Bhaumik, if you can hear me, that politicians in Northeast, of all the political parties who are active, they try to seek resolution of issues through identity politics, which not only plagues Northeast, but is something which plagues the Indian politics, the very heart of it, the beating heart of it.
Let me tell you 3 things very quickly here. Identity politics is going to remain for all times to come. Everywhere, across the world, especially in democracies, identity politics is going to remain. It will not change. 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 It will identity politics has a role. It has a role in America. So Mr. Trump says the immigrants have come, they have to go out, they're not Americans. This identity politics, you can't do away with it. You can't wish it away. Much as you
Yes,
may
sir, you
think.
can't wish away. Yes, sir, you can't wish away bad things.
But you can't
have you seen
overdo
that
it
the Fox
either.
anchor who resigned and the WhatsApp message he sent, which rang the alarm bells? Is this the way white men fight? Dada,
No.
that text actually led to his exit.
No, that's fine. You see, but point here is this is going to remain. You can't suddenly make a US out of India. It's difficult. And because this culture and legacy, your states are organized on linguistic lines. So let's not get into, what? We have to look at three things. One is a governance issue. Do you unleash three sensitive issues all at the same time? Answer is no. You don't do that. Number two, if these are the issues on the table, you have to take a reasonable point and you have to go in for an inter-community dialogue. If you leave it only to the chief minister of the government to decide, you are asking for trouble, because if you have not generated consensus, India is a country which cannot be held together with the guns of Indian army. I make it clear. It has to be held together by consensus. So therefore, and for that you need dialogue. You can't impose anything.
Right.
So you can't just say one morning, throw all these tribals out of the forest because they are encroachers. Because traditionally the tribals have seized forests as their own home. And they think it's their right to plant whatever they want. Secondly, very important here is this whole issue of reservation. So you say ST is for this community, others want it as well because they think, why we want ST? The Meiteis want ST because they think they have been left out of the development process. Their state is not a tribal state like Mizoram or Nagaland. If it was a tribal state, they would get more allocations. A lot of communities in Assam who are not ST also want ST status. So basically these reservations have created certain amount of aspiration. So you want to be in that bandwagon, ST bandwagon. Now this is very dangerous. You have to take a long, short, comprehensive kind of a take on what you are going to do in the long run with this reservation issue. Because if you have these reservations, people are going to ask for it because they think this gives them a certain amount of advantage. And if they don't have that advantage and others have it, then they resent it. The third and the very important issue is here, this crisis that is going on, people want change of leadership. One is playing into the other. Crisis happening, the dissidents are going to Delhi and saying Biren Singh has failed. And then this whole issue.
Dada, can we say that it is also, Dada, can we say it is an administrative failure? The administration was taken by surprise in the capital in Imphal. Is it correct to say that?
It is absolutely correct to say. And I will go a step further and not just say it's an administrative, it's a governance failure. You know why? If you are governing a state, at such a sensitive state like Manipur, where different communities have different aspirations which often conflict with each other, don't forget the Naga Kuki crisis in the 1990s. Nagas have a homeland idea, a particular idea of a greater Nagaland, and the Kukis have it. And therefore, they started attacking each other, the militants of both the communities, and hundreds of people were killed. So Manipur is a sensitive state, and it needs very close handling and attention, even from Delhi, where people think overnight they have gone to Manipur and they have become experts. They are not experts. And you have to take the political factor also.
Dada, who are these experts? Who are these quasi-experts you are referring to?
Yeah, certainly not us. That's why we're asking you exactly to tell us, how to understand the situation on the ground, Subir Bhaumik. Sir, stay with us. We also have Kalyan Deb, journalist from East Mojo, with us on this broadcast. Kalyan Deb, I want to understand, tell us in terms of reportage, within Manipur and on social media, what are you picking up, as far as the current situation is concerned?
Well, currently, in fact, what Mr. Bhaumik has said, I totally agree with him. The whole situation escalated with two things. Firstly, the forest demarcation, which the Kuki and the Naga communities say that they were not consulted with, and they were not, the village elders and the village communities were never consulted before they started demarcating the area and terming these areas as forest land, which the Kuki and the Naga community says they have been living here for centuries. These are homes to these people. So, coming down there, bulldozing them, bulldozing their houses out of and evicting them from their homes all of a sudden without any consultation, that raised the first alarm. Secondly, within days the first incident took place, then you slap them with another demand, which is the SC status demand that was cleared by the High Court.
Kalyan, sorry, I'm Karthikeya, I'm Krishna's colleague in the studio. What I want to know from you is, though the situation is being brought under control, when did this violence exactly start in the city of Imphal? When did this violence happen?
So the report started coming in from tomorrow afternoon, after the solidarity rally was held, and soon after the memorandum was submitted here at the Deputy Commissioner's office in Churachandpur. After that, but assuming anything would be like who threw the first stone. So this is when we started getting reports of violence taking place in the border areas of Churachandpur and Bishnupur. Their communities have started, while one community says that the other fired the first shot and vice versa. So that is when the situation started escalating, and it has been getting worse ever since. However, thankfully there has been no report of violence yet. But the concern as of now is that people from the Kuki community who are living in Imphal have not reached their homes yet. And
are you saying that, Kalyan, are you saying that people have been internally displaced? Is this correct? Are you saying that people have been internally displaced?
Yes, that is what the reports, the kind of reports that we are getting in. So by displaced, I mean, that was during the eviction drive that was carried out in the month of February and March.
Right.
And followed which...
Right. Sumit Bhaumik, if I want to take this back to you, from what we understand, this entire issue, the fact that it has led to these, tragic consequences, at the heart of it is it's a land issue. From what I speak to people, from Manipur and the Nagas, this is a land issue which has been allowed to fester for too long.
No, most of the crisis across India is a land issue. In West Bengal, Singur was a land issue. The issue was whether you can allow an industry to come up in an area where there is fertile agricultural land, but the farmers think they will not get jobs in the industries. Here, the issue is, again, of land. That I'm a tribal, my ancestors have cultivated all around this forest. We have used the forest for wood. We look at it as our mother. So we will do what we want here. We'll cultivate what gets us money. Unless the government has a good alternative crop to suggest to us, they have no business to come and throw us out of this place. So this is the approach of the tribals, both Kukis and Nagas. And because up in the hills, you don't have too many crop options. Down in the plains, you can grow anything you want because you have enough water, you have enough rains. Up in the mountain, you have rains anyway, but the water does not stay, it goes down. And so, groundwater resources are limited. So problem in India is, and also in Manipur, is that the leaders are not drawn mostly from agricultural community. They don't understand anything about farming. Now, when this crisis in Singur happened in Bengal, I said, why Communist Party, these are all SFI, DYF guys. They impress their girlfriends in coffee houses with Marx and Engels, but they don't know anything about farming. They don't know anything about agriculture. So somebody like Budre Bhattacharya and others, they thought these farmers have to be thrown out, we want industry here. You can't do that. This is still employing the most number of people in India. Number two here, the ethnic issue. The ethnic issue is very sensitive. Don't you ever forget that apart from the Naga-Kuki crisis which led to so many deaths in the 1990s, moment government extended the Naga ceasefire to Manipur in 2001, the BJP government at that time, Advani was Home Minister, hell broke loose. The Meiteis went on the rampage because they thought this is the precursor to the division of Manipur. They are going to lose the Naga areas to a greater Nagaland thing. So here, these are very, very sensitive issues and they have to be dealt with extremely cautiously. Now, if you are a sensitive government and you are aware of the sensitivities of the different elements of the population, you have to do two things. You can't give the impression that you are siding with one community. Here, that's the impression people are getting. Well, the tribals are on the back foot, the forest issue, and then you now have the Meiteis pushing for ST, so we will lose our, special privileges, or we will lose the special advantages that we have. Because this ST status guarantees you so many different things, especially employment and education, privileged, access to employment and education. The third and most important thing here is, don't you forget, Krishna and Karthik, let me tell you this. All these communities are heavily armed in the sense that they have militant groups who have weapons of the latest make, and they are still not directly involved in this clash. God forbid, if these guys come in and they start acting as the saviors of their community, because they think their own community and their interests have been not taken care of, and they would like to play with that kind of fire, because that's the kind of politics that the insurgents like to play with. You have hell at hands. You really have hell at hands. So you know what? People, when they think, "Arey yaar, Manipur, chota sa state hai," and this is the kind of condescending approach you get in from Delhi. ठीक है यार, वहाँ एक central minister भेज दो, वो संभाल लेगा. नहीं संभाल सकता है. I still remember Shivraj Patil was the Home Minister, and this huge movement about the alleged rape of a girl by Assam Rifle Jawan, Manorama, Tangjab Manorama. It escalated into such a crisis. Shivraj Patil went there and he failed to handle, because he was more busy changing his dress 3 times a day, meeting different groups, So these people who go there, if you just think the arrival of a central minister, the viceroy from Delhi, will lead to the solution of the problem, is sadly mistaken, my dear. These viceroys, so long as they don't really understand the dynamics of the issue, you are having trouble at hands, and nothing is going to go away. You can deploy the army will get things under the control, they will do their best. The Indian Army and the Assam Rifles are highly professional.
Dada, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just the other perspective, you can educate us on that.
Yeah, tell me.
There has been a concerted effort on part of the Prime Minister that the ministers are going to spend time in Northeast. If you look at the itinerary of the cabinet ministers, they are supposed to go there and spend time. There is a policy focus through NIDA. Himanta Biswa Sarma has been made in charge. So, in a way, if you even look at the itinerary of Prime Minister, I think he has gone more than 50 times. So, there has been a concerted effort in Northeast in context of engagement of Delhi with the various Northeastern states. So, what is specifically going wrong in Manipur? Because if you look at Arunachal, or if you look at other states, such issues of violence have not come, barring Assam and Mizoram. But this Manipur issue just refused to die down. Is it the approach of the people who are in power, sir? Or is it because of the fact that there are certain things which is beyond the control, It's like civil society demand.
No. I think Manipur, the issue is you have 3 major communities whose demands and aspirations conflict so heavily that it can easily escalate into violence, and all 3 communities are armed. They have their own armed groups. Now here I would, about these ministers going to Northeast, Karthik, if you go there with a fixed mindset and you try to impose that mindset on the locals, saying, hey, with all your sort of political baggage, doesn't really work. If you go there as a learner, with an honest attitude to learn, things change. There are people from Delhi who have developed an understanding of Northeast, but after years and years of exposure and, hard work, there are people there, but then very often they are not listened to, because the heavyweights very often go there, they spend some time, they talk to some people, but they have their certain mindset, which does not fit into the understanding, and which will enhance their understanding of Northeast. Because Northeast is a microcosm of India. And the fact is that it is as plural, as ethnically diverse as the rest of India. So here, if you think that a small homeland demand of a community, ठीक है यार वो लोग तो 25,000 हैं छोड़ दो, you are going to ask for trouble, because those 25,000 people may have an armed group of 100 who claim to represent them, and they can, 100 people with proper arms, actually, if they start rioting, they can kill 50 people in one night and cause a huge issue.
Dada,
So
are
what
you
I'm
saying,
trying to say is,
Dada, are you saying that the biggest problem right now is if those declared militant groups get into this issue? You are saying, Dada, this is right now sort of a civil society
Repeat your
issue.
question.
It's poor governance, and there is a possibility.
can you repeat your question? I missed the first bit of it because calls keep coming. So
Okay, so
sorry
Dada,
for
I am
that.
asking you, you're saying that this violence happened because of the governance issue and not able to resolve things. So I am saying that is there a possibility of militants getting into this whole issue? And second, what resolution is required, Dada? Let's talk about the solution part. What do you think where the resolution lies, Dada?
My solution to the problem in Manipur is have a comprehensive dialogue, not with only the Nagas, but with the Meiteis armed groups. So you try to resolve this insurgency problem, not in a piecemeal way, taking one group at a time. You see, the Indian state traditionally has played Shamdam, Dand, Bhed, and Bhed, Sarvottam, split. So, you pit one armed group against another, it gives you a tactical advantage. The army benefits when they're fighting two rivals who then fight amongst themselves. But in the long term, when you're trying to resolve the whole issue, it does not help. Because one group of people, if you bring them out, the other group says, ye log dalal hai, these are bloody, chaps Delhi ka agent hai, and, we'll continue a fight. So my suggestion is a comprehensive dialogue where you get in the Naga rebels, the Kuki rebels, and of course the Meitei rebels groups as well, the PLA especially, because PLA has never sat on the table with anybody from Delhi, and it's a very strong group. It's a very strong group.
But Dada, isn't it really very worrying, it is like, Dada, because Northeast is so far away. If this would have happened in Delhi, or if this would have happened in Agra, I know a lot of things have happened between Imphal and Delhi. Home Minister has spoken, RAF is ready, army has been deployed. This would have created a different sort of a narrative. Lot of media attention would have been there. People would have gone, reporters would have gone, because it is so far away. It is not catching the national imagination of importance of issues which plague Northeast and the resolution they require, the sort of push it needs.
No, that's true. You need the push, you need media attention. But you know what? I'm quite often very worried about national media attention, because like some of the viceroys who govern Delhi, some of the media, heavyweight media, when they turn up from Delhi, they have their own mindset. And very often they end up misrepresenting issues which add to problems. So you know what? We actually need a comprehensive dialogue with all the armed groups. We also need a comprehensive dialogue with the different civil society organizations representing the different ethnic groups. A comprehensive dialogue calling for a resolution of the problem that constitutes the crisis, whose other name is Manipur. Manipur is a crisis state, make no mistake. But Manipur is also a state of opportunity. You know why? Because when you are trying to do look east, in Manipur fables there is a saying that prosperity comes only when the eastern gates open. Now, which is the eastern gate of Manipur? Myanmar. So, you have to, if you are talking of look east or act east, these cliches don't work unless you get things going on ground. Now, how can you have a certain connectivity and outreach to Southeast Asia through Northeast India if this remains the way it is disturbed now?
Dada, you are absolutely right. I had this privilege to visit Manipur and cover the elections. I had the privilege to visit the Loktak Lake, which is, I think, Asia's most unique lake in context of its, the movement.
You have stood on the Fundis, yeah? You have stood on the Fundis then?
Yes,
Fundis.
Dada, I had the privilege of eating Manipuri food. I had the privilege of, covering the Manipur election. I had the privilege of covering both hill and the land. And Dada, one thing I realized, I was able to travel to the Myanmar border, and that is where the Look East takes place, which is called the More border, the Kaladan project. So there are potentialities. I think in Narasimha Rao, it was Look East policy. By the time we came to Prime Minister's tenure, it became Act East policy, but something just doesn't change. You know, what is the solution to ethnic violence? If you look at Assam, Mizoram thing, ethnic violence took place. Is there a solution? Is there an out-of-box thinking which is required, Dada? Because some things don't change. There are things which change. The new bridges have come, the better roads have come, the communication is there, the net there. But with that, certain things don't change. This demographic uncertainties between ethnicities, that they are afraid, it continues to remain. What sort of resolution is required? South Africa could have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. At least it is part of our country. What sort of initiative is required to help Northeast?
Yes, Karthik, you are absolutely right. You've got new bridges, you've got all that. But in the absence of good local crops, you know what is happening? These communications help the drug smugglers who bring stuff from Myanmar into Manipur to actually peddle their illicit contraband much better. This is the net result of the bridges. You know why? Because you created bridges, you created the infrastructure, but you don't have a local land use policy whereby you will get a lot of good crops, you know, and especially commercial crop, which can be transported out of the state or which can lead to some kind of food processing industry in the state. So development by itself, you know, is not a blank check. It is a two-way sword. If you don't address the issue of development alongside these other issues of political aspiration, you know, reservation and all that, you can often
Dada, I'm just stopping you for a minute. I would like our viewers to see all the bites. You know, Mary Com, who represent pride of this country. I want you to listen to the words of Mary Com. You know, she's India's pride, and please listen to her and understand how vulnerable people feel when violence happens. I'll play that bite for you again. Mary Com's bite.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ.
Brother and sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalism and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Vishnupur, Kangpokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and property of our peoples.
Right, there's the Chief Minister of Manipur pleading with the people of Manipur to bring the violence to an end. Ladies and gentlemen, latest pictures from Manipur on your screens. People being evacuated and made to sleep in, parks and in government facilities. You have, burnt down vehicles and houses, plenty across Imphal, the capital, and across Manipur as well. Curfew has been imposed. Army patrolling taking place. We have visuals of that as well. The streets are deserted with army vehicles bringing the situation under control, but still it continues to remain really tense. That's what we understand from our journalists on the ground who have joined us to tell us the situation is still extremely tense. And in fact, Subir Bhaumik, senior journalist, also telling us that the hope is that the armed gangs don't take up don't get into this issue. Kalyan Deb, that's a big fear that's hanging over the heads of Manipur at this stage, that all these three big communities, the Meiteis, the Kukis and the Nagas, all have armed gangs associated with them, and the fear is that they might get into the picture. Kalyan Deb, if you can hear me.
Yes. In fact, the worst part is, in fact, they are already in the picture. In fact, today when I went out earlier in the morning, so we could see some of the members of the armed communities doing the rounds on the streets. They were looking for, they're looking out for now they are looking out for their own people. However, they were also, if situation escalates, it is feared that they might get involved as well. In fact, when the first reports of violence started coming in, there were also unconfirmed reports that some of the bullets were fired by the militant groups, in fact, the rebel groups. So it is. So as of now, the situation is normal. There's no report of violence, but it is clear that. Yes,
Subir Bhaumik, that's worrying that Kalyan Deb tells us that you have the armed gangs already in the picture. You were talking about the fear that this violence will escalate incredibly faster if the armed gangs are in the picture, and now we have Kalyan Deb telling us that they are already getting into the action.
No, I don't think that any of the major rebel groups have actually got into the action. The firing that took place, I learned from my own sources that these are not sophisticated ammunition. These are 12-bore rifles and something. So, hunting rifles. So basically, a lot of people in Manipur have weapons, licensed weapons, as well as, some of these other groups which are operating. You see, there is a system of collaborators. All major rebel groups have collaborators who raise funds for them, who openly operate. But everybody knows that they have links with PLA or NSCN or somebody in the jungle. So these guys also have certain level of weapons, maybe not the very sophisticated weapons which the insurgents use. So this is firing by some of those guys, This is not exactly PLA or NSCN jumping in, because you have to understand that back in the jungles of Myanmar, very often these different rebel groups representing different communities actually share bases, which whoever have crossed the border and gone into those areas, like I've done, you have experienced this. So this is number one. Number two, you have been talking about this identity. You see how identity fluctuates? I went to a beer pub in Bangalore some time back. It's called 20 Feet High. It's like a machang, typical tribal kind of thing. And everybody who was serving beer there looked like people from my area. I'm from Tripura. And I found out that 6 of them were Kukis and 4 of them were Nagas and 2 of them were Meiteis. And there, back home they fight, there they were all friends, because there the identity is, we are Northeasterners. So there the identity is, we have to bond together against, not necessarily against, but to protect ourselves if somebody here locally tries to be funny with us. So we got to protect our ladies, because some people think, so you have seen these problems in Delhi with the Northeastern people. So what I'm trying to say is, back home, these 3 groups fight. When people from these groups, because they don't have enough employment in Manipur, go and work in a place like 20 Feet High, the beer pub which I went to in Bangalore, there these guys are bonding together as Northeasterners. So can you see how the identity changes? The flow of identity changes. I am a Bengali. I'm proud of that. But I am from Tripura, so I'm not a Calcutta Babu. So I empathize with the tribals in Tripura, because I think they have a bona fide demand for autonomy. Yeah. But many people here would think, this is an anti-Bengali thing. So I am a Bengali, but a Bengali from, Tripura, which means I'm a Northeasterner, and then I'm an Indian. And of course, I leave aside my religion and all that, because I'm not very religious person anyway. In the column of religion that you have in different, application forms, I write Indian. So the point here is, that you have different layers of identity, and in a country like India, which is as diverse as the whole of Europe, you can't wish this away. What you need is intelligent management of identity. That's the thing you need. Politicians often escalate these issues to take advantage of these identity conflicts. That is what, in the name of democracy, for heaven's sake, you need to avoid. Just because it gets you a few extra votes. What you really need, both at the governance level, which means the government in Delhi and Imphal, and of course the rest of the Northeast, you need an intelligent management of ethnicity and diversity, or intelligent management of identity. Mary Kom is a cookie, but she's also a Manipuri. And when she puts on the blazer of Manipur and boxes her way and gets a gold medal.
I've been ordered. So out of 16 districts, 8 districts have gone under a complete shutdown of internet. This is the statement by part of the Congress party. It says that the Prime Minister and Home Minister Amit Shah must not waste time and instead focus on restoring peace and order because the situation is worsening. Turmoil all across Manipur is a result of a divisive agenda and BJP's politics. We urge everyone in the state to exercise restraint and help in restoring peace and normalcy. Dada, coming back to one question, we had number of conversations with you. It has been a great privilege to have that. People say that Biren Singh is a no-nonsense chief minister. He's a tough guy. But why has this happened, He's supposed to be a guy who knows how to administer things. But why has this happened?
No, it doesn't always help to be just a tough guy. You need to be a tough guy. Yeah, no nonsense chief minister, everything is fine. Yeah, I'm a no nonsense guy when it comes to my profession, but I'm also sensitive to the aspirations of different people who work with me. So, in my office on a Christmas day, I'm not going to ask a Naga or Kuki to come and work just because I'm a tough guy and I want them to deliver. I'm going to say, guys, go and have a good Christmas. I will ask my other Bengali friends here, come on, continue to work. Make up for these guys. But when you have Durga Puja, these guys are going to work. You're going to go home and dance before the goddess. That's how you administer India, man. You can't administer India with a 56-inch chest. You need a bloody heart inside that chest to administer a country like India. So don't play up divisive agendas. What you need is intelligent management of identity, not playing into the identity conflicts so that you can get a few more votes. That's very important. Just because you are in a democracy and you need votes to win, you don't do anything and everything to get those votes. That's very important. But here, back to the Manipur question, I think we need a comprehensive dialogue involving the different rebel groups of different communities, not just, you're speaking to the NSCN for 25 years and you got really nowhere.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So,
fair enough.
You may be...
Fair enough, Mr. Subir Bhaumik. Comprehensive dialogue involving all three communities. So you've made that point. We have Deepak Diwan, senior journalist, also now joining us on the phone line. Mr. Deepak Diwan, talk to us. We have Subir Bhaumik telling us that the need of the hour is a comprehensive dialogue with the Meiteis and the Kukis and the Nagas in Manipur, because it is a sensitive state.
Well, that's right. I think more than that, it's the responsibility of the Manipur government to take people into confidence. See, the tribals are already, I must tell you, the Kukis have been demanding the 6th schedule in their tribal areas, which have been denied. And in fact, Manipur is the only state which has not extended 6th schedule to the tribal areas. See, on top of that, the issue of granting ST status to Meiteis has further provoked the Kukis, those who are already feeling suppressed by the Meiteis. So that is why this issue has, yesterday's incident has happened. And I think Manipur government should come out clearly and tell people, like, if Meiteis get ST status, like in Assam, we have the plain tribe, valley tribes, and the hill tribes, they are totally different. The valley tribes do not get land rights in hills, but they enjoy all the facilities like reservation and etc., other schemes which are there for tribals. So the tribals already living in Manipur, they should not they should feel secure that if Meiteis are given ST status, it will not infringe on their rights in the hills. That will mellow down the situation. And yesterday, in fact, the Kuki militants, those who are in dialogue with the center and the state, they had their first round, and Mr. A.K. Mishra, the center's advisor to Northeast, and also who is the interlocutor to Kukis, had a first round of talks with the Kuki militants yesterday with KNO and UPF, which are the umbrella organizations of these 25 Kuki underground groups. So today was second round supposed to have taken place in Imphal, but it has not happened. Luckily, Mr. A.K. Mishra is in Imphal, and he must be making all the efforts to diffuse the situation. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Diwan, thank you so much for joining us. We are tracking the latest in Manipur on the ongoing crisis in Manipur here on News9, and we'll continue to track that. But with that, we've completely run out of time on this particular edition of News9 Live. Thank you all of you who've tuned in to watch this broadcast here on News9. Bear in mind, we will be on with this story and get you the latest updates on the situation, the ground situation in Manipur. So keep it with News9. Thank you, Kartikeya, for joining us on this broadcast. And thank you all of you who've been watching this live on News9 Live. This is Krishna Kumar signing off. Keep it with News9.